I was getting a lot of requests to preview the US Open, predict the winners of the US Open, so here I am. Hey guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. The purpose of this video is to preview both the men's singles and women's singles events at the 2019 US Open, the 4th Grand Slam of the year, by predicting who or what kind of player has the best shot of winning. And then we're going to look ahead at what you can expect from this channel in the coming fortnight, because it's a Grand Slam, which means I actually upload regularly, which is a miracle. I'm going to jump straight in. I have not done much prep for this video at all, so these are my instinctive takes, and then as the tournament goes on we'll do more in-depth kind of stuff. Okay, so starting with the women's side, and the phrase I've recycled over and over and over again, it's wide open. Anyone could get it, and as I have said several times in the women's events at the slams, the woman who ultimately comes out on top these days often isn't even among the leading contenders ahead of the event. Perfect example of this, Simona Halep at Wimbledon this year. In my personal opinion, there are more women that could legitimately win this slam than women in the draw that have next to no chance, so that gives you a bit of an idea of where things are at. But I'm gonna say something that I haven't been able to say outright in quite a long time. As long as she is physically fit, this is Serena Williams' title to win or lose. That's what I'm saying ahead of this one. Obviously, the Williams sisters have long been known for dominating Wimbledon specifically, but pre-2015, Serena had really dominated at the US Open. So to take last year's final crumble, to take other shock results at the US Open, and therefore say that Serena Williams isn't a front runner, a leading contender here, would be a bad move. I feel like I said this in my most recent video, but the facts are that if another player had had Serena Williams' run post giving birth, it would be billed as unbelievable, incredible. But because it's Serena Williams and she's nearly 2 years on from giving birth and hasn't won a slam, there is a sense of disappointment almost. In the first 2 Grand Slams she completed after giving birth, she reached the final, she's reached another one this year. Right now in these big matches, it is the mental side of things that is holding her back. Her game is there, and she's shown that in recent weeks. She beats a resurgent Naomi Osaka, who she'd never beaten before, in straight sets in Canada, and was only halted by injury there. And personally, I think the tears she shed in that final after having to pull out showed that she feels she's nearly there. If you watched my last video, you will know that I have my doubts about Serena Williams in those final rounds. It's a real mental struggle for her at the moment. She can go down quite quickly. We never used to see that happening to her. But at the last Grand Slam of the year, where maybe there's a bit more doubt surrounding her, a little less expectation, even as she goes for Grand Slam number 24, I think that she has a massive shot. It's also the venue where she crossed the line and got to number 18, which was another massive number that she struggled to reach. And talking about Serena, I obviously have to mention the fact that she opens against Maria Sharapova, 5-time Grand Slam champion. Okay, I laugh that this is still considered a big rivalry, and I still will, even if Sharapova wins their first round match here. At the end of the day, I was 7 years old last time Sharapova beat Serena. It's been 15 years and 18 meetings since then, so that says it all, really. But I never write anyone off, and I would say there are 3 things potentially in Sharapova's favor here. Initially, there are a few question marks surrounding Serena's physical fitness after the withdrawal in Canada against Bianca Andreescu in the final. There's also the fact that due to the 15 years of dominance, virtually everyone expects Serena to win this match, so all the pressure should be on her, and Sharapova should almost go out there swinging like an underdog, like a qualifier or a wildcard. But also, interestingly, Sharapova's only real big win since coming back from the doping ban in 2017 was in the US Open first round of that year against Simona Halep. So this is a place where she's got it done before, she's a former champion. But other than that, you know, Serena is strong favourite, and for me, I would actually be picking her alone as my pick to actually win the event. Now, in this messed up world of tennis streaming that we live in, Amazon Prime is showing the US Open. I woke up this morning to a booklet from Amazon Prime that someone had left me, kind of previewing the events. I never look at previews online or in paper form or anything anymore, but just out of interest, I flicked through to see who their players to watch were. On the women's side, they had 4. It was Ashley Barty, Naomi Osaka, Serena Williams and Simona Halep, which I get, to be fair. Osaka would be right up there for me now. She's struggled mentally and physically at times this year, but she's been open about that and seems to be coming back on track. She is the defending champion, which brings some pressure with it, but we've seen her win back-to-back Grand Slams, we've seen her peak at the big events, and we know she has the potential to do that. Barty, I think, is absolutely correct to put her up there. She's had the most consistent season of any WTA player. She's got all the skills, all the shots. Halep I'd be more shaky on because she just won Wimbledon. I don't see her winning back-to-back titles, however talented and however in form she is. But I would say Amazon Prime have missed a big name off there, possibly because of when this booklet went to press, and that name is Bianca Andreescu. Old school tennis is making a comeback. Serve and volleys coming to the net, slicing, drop shots. It's happening. This is what is succeeding on the WTA at the moment. The baseline power game is getting left behind in general when it comes to the big winners. And even some younger players coming up. At the US Open, you'll see a local girl, Katie Mcnally, who I commentated on in Washington, DC a couple of times a few weeks ago. Very impressed by her and the way she mixes things up. The last few Grand Slams have been won by counterpunchers and more tricky, versatile players, with the exception of Naomi Osaka, who does gravitate to a power game. But then again, Osaka's a special case. She's going to win tons of slams if she stays healthy, if she stays mentally focused. And she herself knows how to mix things up and throw a different shot into her game when things aren't going her way. Andreescu is still in her teens. She was playing ITF events last year, but she won her second Premier title under real home pressure a couple of weeks ago. And it was her first event back from injury, and she beat big names to get that trophy. With the hype, sometimes overhype, around other young players, people forget how steady and strong a start to the year Andreescu had, because she's been off the scene for a fair few months and weeks. It's been well over a decade since we last saw a teenage Grand Slam champion, but if Marketa Vondrousova got close at the French Open, then Andreescu will sure as heck have her chance here. Last year's US Open champion, Naomi Osaka, had been a surprise unseeded champion at Indian Wells earlier in that season. The 2017 US Open champion, Sloane Stephens, had had a sudden good run ahead of the event. Andreescu fits both categories, so she's definitely a player to keep an eye on. And there are so many other players that I could list. We are going to be a lot more concise with the men's event, but it's not actually as straightforward as it has been in the other three Grand Slams of the year, I don't think. Now, obviously, the big three, Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, are the leading contenders here, no questions asked. But that statement is slightly more shaky at the US Open than it has been at the previous three Grand Slams of the year, largely to do with recent history and the US Open's position in the tennis calendar. The big three and Andy Murray have almost totally dominated the other Grand Slams for the past decade or so, but in the last 10 years, Juan Martín, Del Potro, Stan Wawrinka and Marin Cilic have all won the US Open. Del Potro particularly has been really consistent there in recent years, reached the final last year, the semi-finals the year before. Kevin Anderson was a finalist in 2017, Kei Nishikori was a finalist in 2014, and this has become Nishikori's most consistent Grand Slam for a reason. It's because the physical and mental fatigue is more likely to set in here for players that have been more consistent over the course of the year. Djokovic, Federer and Nadal, I would say, have all been utterly consistent across the board, across all three surfaces this year, and while they have clearly made efforts to pace themselves ahead of this major, it doesn't change the fact that there have been two Grand Slams in quick succession, other big tournaments taking place alongside these, and these guys are consistently going deep. Now, none of this means I'm knocking these three guys off the top spot. It's hard for me, really, to look beyond them. Obviously, it's hard to go against Djokovic. He showed what an incredible headspace he's in during Wimbledon, particularly in that final. But Nadal has the best draw, and I haven't properly analysed either of the draws. That's on my to-do list, but I've seen enough to know that of all these three guys, of all the guys contending in the draw, Nadal has the best draw, and he can be overlooked because everyone kind of puts him in this clay court box and puts him further down the ladder elsewhere. Actually, he was insane at Wimbledon before Federer produced a brilliant performance to take him out. The same at the Australian Open. He was soaring before he ran into Novak Djokovic in the final, won the French Open, obviously. And being on the opposite side of the draw to Federer and Djokovic, there is the potential for something to happen to one or both of those players before they reach the final. But for Federer, I feel like people could think it's a bad thing for him that Djokovic is in his side of the draw. I think that's great for Federer because he still has the game. He can knock anyone off over best of 5 sets, best of 3 sets with that game. The serve, the net game, the backhand, etc. But as I've said over and over and over again, it was the head game that did him in that Wimbledon final. If he were to face Djokovic at the US Open, it would be in the semis. There wouldn't be that Grand Slam trophy immediately on the line. So some of the pressure of the occasion would be taken off for Federer, and even though I think that was his best shot at Djokovic in a Grand Slam final at Wimbledon, I'd still be giving him good chances in a semi-final. Both Federer and Djokovic have had shock losses at this event. You only need to look to last year for Federer when he lost to John Millman and in really humid conditions. Djokovic went out to Nishikori as Federer went out to Cilic in the 2014 semis. So I do think this is the slam where the big three, although Djokovic and Nadal have been strong here in recent years, are more likely to fall early. And if that was the case, I do not expect any of the next gen players to be stepping up to take the trophy. Your Zverevs, Choric's, Shapovalovs, I can see them getting upsets, but in order to win the title here, they'd at least have to go through 2 of the big 3 potentially, and that's a massive task over best of 5. I've said it before, I'll say it again, best of 5 sets is so physically taxing for players that are still developing, still on their way up. When I said Choric's name there, actually, I was like, oh, didn't really consider Coric before, and he's supremely talented, he's improving, so maybe there is a shot for him there, but overall, I think the veteran players, the more experienced players in the game are far more likely to swipe a trophy than one of the younger guys. Even though there's no Kevin Anderson, no Juan Martín del Potro, no Milos Raonic this year, even though Kei Nishikori is on the Djokovic and Federer half of the draw, his name is in my mind. He's getting to the back end of his career now, which seems strange to say. But while he hasn't really been injured this year, he's not played as much because he's had periods of iffy form. This could be where it comes together for him. Stan Wawrinka's in that draw, obviously. So for me, really, if I had to pick a handful of names that could win, obviously it's going to be the big 3, but I do see potential outside of them at this event. So they are my raw takes as far as the upcoming and actually already happening US Open goes. I haven't uploaded since the last Wimbledon video because I've had a really busy few weeks. I actually missed the 2 biggest lead-up events to the US Open, Montreal, Toronto, and Cincinnati. I didn't see a single point at either of the tournaments because I was away doing voluntary work, which has been a big thing for me growing up, something that I'm really invested in, and I definitely wasn't going to give that a miss. The week before that I was commentating on City Open, Washington DC, so I was seeing bits of the women's game, but last week I was working all week at the National Championships in Great Britain at the junior event. So I didn't have time to catch up, I didn't watch any tennis then, so I'm going into the US Open using my knowledge from the past season, from the many hours of tennis I've watched, and that's why I couldn't really delve deeper in this video. However, stick with us, subscribe if you haven't, because going into this tournament I'm going to be doing the end of round Q&As, so after first round, second round, third round, etc. Usually I would do them live, but the US Open is weird for me in terms of time zones and the time difference, and I'm not sure how many people would actually be around to join in with the live streams when I'm available to do them. So these videos will happen, but I don't know if I'll pre-record them. So please, if you do have questions for the end of round Q&As, either leave them in the comments here or tweet me at Abigail Tennis or at the Tennis Vlog to ask the questions. As we reach the back end of the tournament, I'll be doing preview and predictions videos. And yeah, that's about it for now. Thank you for watching, and sorry it's a late upload for the reasons that I've just explained. It is difficult with the channel at the moment because I'm doing different work. I'm working in tennis in other areas and I'm trying to keep myself alive. So YouTube does sometimes have to take a backseat, but when a Grand Slam comes around, we can go full speed. Leave a comment, let me know what you think of my takes and what takes you have yourself. Would be very interested to hear your thoughts on the draw, which we will break down properly in the first round Q&A. And I'm gonna call that a day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.